Once upon a time, in a kingdom filled with wealth and power, there lived a great king. His palace shone with gold, his soldiers obeyed his every command, and his people respected him deeply. Yet, even with all this greatness, the king's heart often longed for adventure. He wanted to prove his strength, to feel the thrill of conquest beyond the battlefield. And so, he found joy in hunting wild animals of the forest. One bright morning, when the sun spread its golden light over the palace walls, the king gathered his soldiers and declared that he would go hunting. The forest near the kingdom was vast, filled with rivers, tall trees, and the songs of birds. The king rode on his strongest horse, his soldiers following with bows and spears, ready to serve. As they entered the forest, the air became cooler, and the silence grew heavy, broken only by the sound of hooves crushing dry leaves. Suddenly, from behind a cluster of trees, a magnificent deer appeared. Its body was slender, its fur shone like golden silk under the sunlight, and its eyes sparkled with gentleness. For a moment, even the king was struck by its beauty. But soon his pride took over, and he raised his bow. "Catch that deer," he commanded. His voice echoed through the forest, and the soldiers rushed forward. But the deer was no ordinary creature. With the grace of the wind, it leapt into the bushes, dodging arrows and spears with ease. The chase began. The soldiers tried hard, but the deer moved like a spirit of the forest, faster than their horses, smarter than their tricks. One by one, the soldiers gave up, but the king's pride would not let him stop. He spurred his horse deeper into the woods, following the deer alone. The forest grew darker as the tall trees blocked the sun. The king's clothes tore on the thorns, his horse stumbled on uneven ground, and sweat rolled down his face. Still, he refused to give up. The deer would appear in front of him for a brief moment, its golden body shining between the shadows, only to vanish again, drawing him further into the unknown. Hours passed, and the king's throat grew dry. His soldiers were nowhere to be seen. The once familiar forest now felt endless and strange. The sound of streams teased his ears, but he could not find water. His mighty strength began to fade, and his heart pounded with exhaustion. At last, the king stopped his horse and fell to the ground, gasping for breath. And there, not far from him, stood the deer. But something strange happened. The deer did not run. Instead, it stood calmly, its gentle eyes fixed on him, as if it had been waiting all along. The king, surprised and weak, lowered his bow. Why did this deer, so swift and clever, not escape when it had the chance? Why did it stand before him with such peace, without fear in its eyes? For the first time, the king felt a strange shiver of humility. He realized he was not the master of the forest. He was a lost man, alone before a creature that seemed to hold a secret he could not yet understand. And at that very moment, the king's heart whispered a question he had never asked before: what am I really chasing? The king stood in silence, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. The forest around him seemed to grow still, as if every leaf and every bird had paused to witness what would happen next. And there, only a few steps away, stood the deer, the very creature he had chased for hours. But instead of running, instead of trembling in fear, the deer looked at him with eyes full of calmness, as though it carried wisdom older than the forest itself. The king slowly lowered his bow. For the first time in his life, his heart hesitated. He was a man who had commanded armies, conquered lands, and seen enemies fall before him, yet here he stood, powerless before the gentle gaze of an animal. His lips parted to speak, but no words came. Then, something extraordinary happened. The deer's voice, soft and clear, filled the air. "O mighty king," the deer said, "you have wandered far from your palace, your soldiers, and your pride. You came into this forest to claim my life, but look at yourself, you are tired, thirsty, and lost. Is this what true power looks like?" The king's eyes widened. Never before had he heard such words. He felt as though the forest itself had found a voice through this creature. His pride, which had always burned like fire in his heart, began to flicker. The deer continued, its tone gentle yet filled with truth. "Power is not in taking lives," it said. "It is in protecting them. A king is not great because of the fear he spreads, but because of the mercy he shows. Look around you, this forest is home to many. The streams flow freely, the trees give shade, the birds sing without asking for anything in return. The true ruler of this forest is not the one who hunts, but the one who allows life to flourish." The king's throat tightened. His hands shook as he let the bow fall to the ground. He had always believed that strength was the heart of kingship, that pride was his crown, and that fear was his shield. But here, in the silence of the woods, a simple deer had shattered that illusion. With tears rising in his eyes, the king stepped closer and spoke in a trembling voice. "Forgive me, I see now how blind I have been. I hunted not for survival, but for pride, for a moment of glory that meant nothing. You, whom I thought weak, have shown me what true greatness means. No minister, no courtier, no warrior has ever given me such wisdom as you have today." The deer lowered its head slightly, as if in blessing. "Then return to your kingdom," it said. "Rule not with pride, but with compassion. Let mercy be the crown upon your head, and kindness the sword in your hand. For a ruler's true legacy is not written in battles won, but in lives protected." And with those words, the deer turned. Its golden body shimmered like sunlight as it leapt gracefully into the forest. Within moments, it was gone, leaving only silence behind. The king remained standing, his heart transformed. He no longer felt like the conqueror of lands, but like a humble student who had received the greatest lesson of his life. Slowly, he mounted his weary horse and found his way back to the edge of the forest, where his soldiers anxiously waited. When they saw him, they bowed and asked, "My king, did you claim your prize?" The king looked at them with a gentle smile and replied, "Yes, I have claimed the greatest prize of all, wisdom." From that day forward, the kingdom changed. The king ruled with fairness and kindness. He stopped unnecessary hunts, he cared for his people, and he ensured that no one in his land would live in fear. His people, who once obeyed him out of respect for his power, now loved him deeply for his compassion. And though the deer was never seen again, its lesson lived on, not just in the king's heart, but in the hearts of generations that followed.